afternoon. There we go. How's everybody doing? Good. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us for our investors meeting, and it's great to be at Minute Maid Park, the home of the world champion Houston Astros. That's right. Who, by the way, dominated last night or yesterday afternoon with an 11-2 performance. So we're excited. We're going to try to keep that momentum going for Houston into October, so we can go back to back. For those of you that I don't know, my name is Robert Allen. I'm the president and CEO of the Texas Economic Development Corporation. You ask yourself, okay, well, that's great. What is the Texas Economic Development Corporation? We are a 501c3 nonprofit statewide organization that is tasked with marketing the state of Texas domestically and globally. And as I look around the room, I see a lot of our dear partners who help us in this endeavor. There's one in particular that I want to point out, and that is Scott Prohaska, who was recently appointed to the board of directors of TxEDC by Governor Abbott. Scott, good to see you. Thank you for being with us. So you ask yourself, okay, great, so what do you guys do? Marketing the state of Texas, you know, your whole backyard, East Coast, West Coast, RGV, North Texas. Well, we go around the country and the world reminding people of the strengths of the Texas business economy. And we do that a lot through some third-party validations, people like Scott. I know Earl Hesterberg is here as well, a lot of our good partners. And we talk to people about the benefits of doing business here, because I tell people all the time, you should discount what I tell you. I get paid to tell you how great it is here, but you shouldn't discount what a CEO who's running a business in Texas tells you, because they're the ones making the budget decisions, spending the money, thinking about hiring, et cetera, because that's what's best for their business, because they are operating right here in the state of Texas. Well, so let's start real quick. Where are we? Next slide, please. Well, let me tell you, we're on top. We're number one in almost every category, every ranking that's out there. So that's great news, right? Yes. What that means is everybody's shooting at us, which is fine, because I like taking shots, because that means that we're doing something right. And so the question for us at TxEDC is, well, then what do you do with this? You know, 10th largest economy in the world, right? Only California is bigger. By the way, Italy is number 9, and I have tasked my team with tracking down Italy by 2020. They're growing at about negative 2.5%. We're growing, you know, somewhere in the 5 to 6%. So we're close. We're on their heels. But this is where we are. We're on top of every single business ranking that's out there. So the question becomes, where do we go from here? Next slide, please. This is where we go. This is what is happening in the state of Texas between now and 2050. Let me break this down for you. What this says is, between now and 2050, we will double the population of the state of Texas. Everybody usually takes a big gasp and says, oh my God, that's a lot of cars, a lot of people. Yes, it is. So we're going to have to be thoughtful about what we do with this. Okay, here's the point that I want to make today. We're at Houston Woodland Sugarland MSA, projected to grow at 114.8%. 6.6 million in 2015, projections are 14.2 million by 2050. That's a lot of people. So we have to prepare for this. We have to plan for this. We have to make our business environment in Texas strong to be able to absorb these types of numbers, because regardless of whether I get out of bed, this is happening. This is coming. And so we have to prepare now, and we have to make sure that we have an environment that can absorb these bodies, jobs that are available for these bodies, and a business environment where these individuals want to be productive members. We want to find good, high-paying jobs. They become tax-paying citizens. This is a great thing for all of us. So this is what's coming, and this is what kind of drives us at TxEDC every day. Next slide, please. And so how do we do that? Well, we do it in a number of ways. One of the ways we do it is through events just like this. This is a quick little snapshot of some of the things that we've done previous to this and some of the things that we'll be doing after this. I won't go through all of them, but I do want to highlight our international mission to Japan, coming up at the end of September. Governor Abbott will be joining us on this mission, and Japan, by the way, is our top FDI market. Right? We have had tremendous successes starting with Toyota and Kubota and some others. But we think there's more to do in Japan. So we're going to take the governor over there for a couple of days. Stay tuned. Check your inboxes. There ought to be some press releases coming out while we're over there, bringing more business to Texas. And so I wanted to highlight that one. It's always great when we can go international and remind the international community just how strong we are in Texas. Because again, we're the 10th largest economy in the world. So as I remind our team, we ought to wake up every day and act like it. We ought to not just be okay with going after California, although that's fun and that's fruitful for us. We need to expand our horizons beyond that. So this is a little bit of a snapshot of what we have planned for the rest of the year. Next slide, please. We also touch base with some of our partners around the state with outreach and presentations, and this is just a very brief explanation of some of those in places that we've been, in places that we plan to go. I bring this up because it's important for us to plug ourselves in where we're wanted. I know there's a lot of business that happens out there. We're a huge state. We've got a lot of really, really impressive EDO organizations that are out there. Bob Harvey with GHP, who most people know. I see Susan from GHP here as well, Jenna from San Antonio, Beth from Irving. These are our partners on the ground in the communities that are doing the yeoman's work, and they're doing tremendous work. But we've got a ginormous state. It is huge, as you all know. And so we can't be everywhere at once. And so if you have opportunities for us to spread the message, to come talk to you, please let us know. We'd love to come see you. We'd love to update you on what we're doing. But more importantly, we'd love to make sure that we're on the same page. Because I tell people all the time, you know, my job is not to come in and tell you how to sell your community. That is absolutely not my job. My job is to come in and ask you how you want your community sold. And when I'm traveling the country and the world, making sure that I have the talking points that you want me to have, highlighting the advantages of Houston, highlighting the advantages of Irving, Dallas, Fort Worth, the Rio Grande Valley, East Texas, Nancy's here from the partnership in East Texas, making sure that I know what the latest talking points are for your areas of work. And in many cases, making sure that we're avoiding what we don't want to be talking about. So please be in touch with us. Let us know if you have opportunities. We'd very much love to come see you. And then additionally, if you find yourselves in Austin, which is home base for us, please come see us. Pop in. Next slide, please. So another way that we get the message out is through digital advertising. Digital advertising is incredibly cost effective for us. While TV is great, TV is very expensive, as a lot of you know. And so we do a tremendous amount of digital advertising. We're gonna do about a dozen focused, targeted digital campaigns this year. We will look to add to that next year. I'll give you an example of one of our most recent ones. These numbers on the board were for a campaign that we ran in Philadelphia in conjunction with the Biomedical Convention, or BIO. It's the world's largest biomedical convention that happens. We were there not only in person, but we were also there digitally. We think it's very important for us to layer our message. And so we started running this about 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks in front of the conference. We ran it during the conference, and then we ran it 2 or 3 weeks after the conference. For those of you who are not digital media experts, and I am not, let me help you understand some of these numbers, because I look at these, I'm like, well, what does this mean, right? So 1.1 million people saw it, okay? An impression is 2 seconds, 3 seconds, so that really doesn't mean all that much. Okay, total video views is exactly what it sounds like. So somebody watched it all the way through, okay? Total video completions is somebody who we, in our estimation and our trackers, believe not only watched it, but engaged with it. And so we look at these two numbers and you see, wow, there's huge discrepancies between the two. Well, you all know what happens. You pull your laptop up, you click on something, and the ad for Chevy pops up, and you're not looking at that. You're looking at, the Sports Center scores, and you're not paying attention. Well, that Chevy ad that runs, even though you're not looking at it, that counts for a video view. Okay, so we don't look at that. We look at video completions. About 11,600 people, we feel confidently watched our message all the way through from start to finish. And then the bottom number, which is 3,960 plus total engagements, is exactly what it sounds like. It's an engagement. Somebody shared it, somebody liked it, somebody commented on it. Not always positive, by the way, but a comment is a comment. And that's somebody who actually saw it and then did something with it. And so we look at these and we take this data, and by the way, we can break this down and tell you where they watched it. We can tell you almost to a community level who watched it for how long. So what we do is we run these campaigns and then we take the data on the back end and we go, okay, Philadelphia was a decently good market for us for the bio message. It resonated pretty well. But then I can tell you West Coast versus East Coast. For example, the attention span on the West Coast, not as long as the attention span on the East Coast. And so we can look at the data that we get and we collect from doing these highly focused, targeted digital campaigns and use that then moving forward. So again, sometimes we'll do this, for example, we're going to Boston here soon. And so we'll run a campaign in Boston ahead of time. We'll see what message resonates. We'll see who watched it, what areas watched it. We'll try to look at the corporations that we targeted in that message to see who watched it. And then we'll use that to go schedule our meetings in person when we're there in front of them. So we know what message is resonating in Boston, because what resonates in Boston doesn't always resonate in Philly, right? Or California or New York. And so it's not just about spreading the message and the word. That's very important. It's understanding what is selling. Understanding what CEOs and decision makers, corporate executives, our site selection consultants, what do they want? What's moving the needle? I can tell you today that the low tax environment that we're in Texas, that's moving the needle less than quality of workforce, quality of life issues. And that's a shift for us in the last 2 or 3 years. You used to be able to sit down with executives and talk about and praise the tax environment that you were in. We really can't do that anymore. Next slide, please. We are thrilled today to have 2 special guests with us. They really need no introductions, but I'm going to give you a short little snippet of introduction between these 2 individuals. The first is a veteran of the oil and gas industry, and her name is Vicki Hollub. You've seen Vicki in the news a lot lately, and we'll talk a little bit about why she's been in the news. She is currently president and CEO of Occidental Petroleum, a position she has held since April of 2016. During her 35-year career with Occidental, she has held a number of leadership positions. Just before becoming president and CEO, she was chief operating officer. Previous to that, she was president of Oxy Oil and Gas and a number of other positions on 3 continents. She has served for Occidental over her career. She currently serves on the boards of the American Petroleum Institute, the Khalifa University for Science and Technology in Abu Dhabi, and Lockheed Martin, another one of our proud Texas businesses up in Fort Worth. She's the chair of the U.S. Secretary of Energy Advisory Board, U.S. chair for the U.S. Columbia Business Council, a member of the World Economic Forum and of the Oil and Gas Climate Initiative. A very proud graduate of the University of Alabama, and let me take this as a side note to tell you, she knows more about Alabama and college football than anybody I've ever met. Second, maybe only to University of Texas alum Governor Abbott, and that makes for a really interesting conversation when the 2 are together talking college football. This past April, Governor Abbott appointed Vicki as vice chair of the board of the Texas Economic Development Corporation, and we could not be more thrilled to welcome her to our family. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Vicki Hollub. Our second special guest needs really no introduction. Elected as the 48th governor of the state of Texas in 2014 and re-elected last November, Greg Abbott continues to build on his long record as a conservative leader. Under Governor Abbott's strong leadership of the 10th largest economy in the world, the Lone Star State leads the nation in job creation and recently set a record for low unemployment that we have never seen since we have been tracking unemployment in the state of Texas. Before his election in 2014, Greg Abbott was the 50th and longest serving Attorney General of the state of Texas, and previously served as a justice on the Texas Supreme Court and began his public service here in Harris County as a district judge. A native Texan, avid sportsman and hunter, Governor Abbott was born in Wichita Falls, raised in Duncanville, proud undergrad of the University of Texas at Austin, go Horns. He earned a law degree from Vanderbilt University Law School, and shortly after his graduation from law school, he was partially paralyzed by a tree while jogging here in Houston, Texas. Governor Abbott and his wife Cecilia, a former teacher and principal, and the first Hispanic First Lady of the state of Texas, were married in 1981 and recently celebrated an anniversary. Congratulations. Their daughter Audrey is a recent college graduate. Ladies and gentlemen, Governor Abbott. let me start by saying how grateful we are to have somebody like Governor Abbott who understands economic development in the state of Texas, who gives us a listening ear and asks, how can we make it better? What can we do for our business environment? How can we make sure that we let business leaders make the decisions to continue to move our economy forward and stay number one? And so it's refreshing, Governor, to have you as our leader, appointing individuals like Vicki to our board. Vicki, we're going to jump in, and first question to you. Occidental has certainly been in the press a lot lately, but for those in the room that aren't familiar with Occidental, tell us a little bit about you, what you do, who you are, and what the plans are for the future.
Okay, first of all, I'd say I'd rather not be in the press. That's not my desire. But our company actually next year is going to be 100 years old. We started in California, and in California we struggled for a long time between trying to develop some gas and oil. We hit one of the biggest fields in California, which propelled us into the international arena and enabled us to start drilling in Libya. We were successful there. We expanded from there to the Middle East and to other areas in the United States. And so we became a quite successful company. And we're located in Los Angeles when Governor Perry helped to convince our former CEO to move our corporate headquarters from Los Angeles to Houston. It didn't take a lot of discussion there because our former CEO was from Galveston and loves the state of Texas. We all came back here. Now with the corporate headquarters here, we're mainly an upstream oil and gas company with operations in Abu Dhabi, Oman, and Qatar in the Middle East, in Colombia, in South America, and we have a chemicals business. And then recently, a couple of weeks ago, we closed on the acquisition of Anadarko. So now we've doubled our production with that Anadarko acquisition. So we're about 1.4 million barrels a day of oil and gas production. And I believe now we're, again, the largest producer in the state of Texas and the largest operator and producer in the Permian Basin. And so we're certainly happy to be headquartered here in Texas.
Never a dull moment. Clearly far reach in the world. Governor, what does it mean to you to have a company like Occidental headquartered in Texas, operating in Texas? What does that mean to you, and how does that help us overall with our image?
Well, these are the type of people that we like moving from California to Texas. If we could pick and choose which ones we get, this would be the ones that we would get. If you don't mind, let me say a couple of things up front. First of all, Robert, thank you for what you do to help lead this tremendous organization. But I really want to thank everybody who gathers with us here today for your involvement. You know, you talked early on a little bit about how Texas is doing economically. Listen, it's not lost on me. The real people who make our economy work are the people that I'm looking at right now. And so I appreciate y'all's ongoing leadership, your activism, your involvement in stimulating the economy. It is you all that make sure that it runs the right way. One other initial comment that should not be lost, and that is officially yesterday, and then you could continue it to today and tomorrow, were the days 2 years ago when Hurricane Harvey came across our shoreline and caused devastation unlike what we had ever seen before. And I want you to know how proud I am as governor to see the way that the people of Houston and Harris County and this entire region respond in the aftermath of Hurricane Harvey. I will not forget the stories that were written in the months after Hurricane Harvey about the hand-wringing that Harris County and Houston would never be the same. Your economy would never be able to grow the same. You would not be able to attract people here ever again. All of which was proven to be wrong when you look at the massive growth that you see taking place this very day. And it's the quintessential example of the type of resiliency that lies within the heart of every man and woman that we have in the great state of Texas, and especially the business community. And the entire state of Texas is very proud of the way that you all responded to Hurricane Harvey. There's more to do, but together we'll get it done.
Vicki, you talked a little bit about the work that Occidental does and the reach that you have. You could operate your business anywhere in the world. You chose Houston, Texas. Why?
Well, there are a lot of reasons. First of all, it's the kind of leadership we have here in Texas. The certainty around the business environment, the rules and regulations, knowing what to expect, and being able to work with the state and the county and city officials. Texas is a place that wants to partner, and they want to partner with business for the benefit of the citizens of Texas and the United States. Texas, the reach of Texas goes way beyond the borders of the state. And we have right now, we have almost 7,800 employees here in the state, and we employ about 12,000 contractors, so almost 20,000 people directly work for us. And we've been able to find the talent in the state. And the people in the state of Texas are not only the leadership, but throughout the state, there's a different kind of people here. And I see when people who come in from outside, if they're not already like us, they become like us. And I say us because I grew up in the state of Alabama. I've lived in Texas now 17 years. I actually sold my retirement property in the state of Alabama. I live on Galveston Island, and I'll never leave. It's wonderful here, but one of the things that I think demonstrates what can happen in the state of Texas more than anything else is that, as you know, I just said we have operations in Abu Dhabi and Oman and Qatar. And just when the shale play was starting to kick off in a big way in Texas and parts of New Mexico, the guys over in the Middle East would ask me, what's going to happen here? What the shale play, we're just starting to hear about it. What do you think the future will be? And especially when some actions that were taken over there were starting to lower our oil prices significantly. I told them, I said, never, ever underestimate the innovation and ingenuity of Texas companies. And sure enough, that's turned out to be the case. Texas is still the energy center of the world, and it's that, and it will continue to be, because throughout our histories, throughout the state history, there's been people in this state, there's been state government, the regulators, everybody has always joined together to ensure that we do the right things for the people that live here. And we provide a quality of life for the people in the state of Texas and the things that can make their lives and the next generations even better. So I think that there's no place better to work and to live than the state of Texas.
You see why Governor Abbott appointed her vice chair of our board. It's like I have to do nothing. This is fantastic for me. So, Governor, you spent much of your early career in Houston after graduating from law school. Again, it's where your accident occurred. What does Houston mean to you? Why is Houston so resilient time after time?
Well, first, I'll tell you that what Vicki said proves the axiom, and that is there's only two types of people in the world. There are Texans and those who wish they were Texas. And we're delighted now that you sold your property in Alabama and you are a genuine bona fide Texan. But Houston, for me, there was something that attracted me to Houston to begin with. As a kid growing up, whether it be in Wichita Falls or Longview or the Dallas area where I went to high school, or when University of Texas. And by the way, Robert, just to make sure we have equal playing time out here, yes, I went to University of Texas, but also I believe in Gigamaggies. There you go, see a bunch of those. I believe in Texas Tech, Baylor Bears. Who else am I missing? Oh, of course, University of Houston. There you go. We'll keep on going. Anyway, when I clerked at a law firm here, Butler & Binion. And when I clerked at Butler & Binion here in Houston, Texas, in the summer of my second year of law school, I discovered something about Houston I did not know about before that. And that is, at that time, which was 1983, it was clear to me of all the different cities I had visited in the United States of America, there was no city that seemed to me more profound when it comes to offering opportunity. Just the rawest of opportunity. It doesn't matter who you are, where you come from. If you come to Houston, if you work hard, if you have a vision, you can achieve anything. And that's been proven time and again by people who have been here long before me and people who got here after I did. And it turned out it was proven once again after I moved here, because as you pointed out, soon after I moved here, I had that accident. That was a life-changing accident that left me in a wheelchair. And that was a time before the ADA existed, and it was a time when you could have easily seen that this is a person who is no longer able to walk, and hence is not really going to have all that bright of a future ahead of him. But it was after the accident that I went on to become a judge here in Harris County, then a Supreme Court justice, then attorney general, and then governor, proving that we do live in a state where a young man can have his back broken in half and still rise up and be governor of this state, a state with unbridled opportunity for everybody. And the good news is it applies not just to those involved in the governmental sector, but most importantly, it applies to those in the business sector. Because we see from some of the people in this room, but we see from the businesses that operate outside of this room, what I said earlier, doesn't matter who you are or where you come from, you can come to Houston, Texas, and succeed in the business arena. Houston and Texas truly are the land of opportunity.
Vicki, you've had the opportunity over 35 years now at Occidental to do business all over the world. Russia, Venezuela, Ecuador. You had some pretty impressive words about the business environment in Texas. Let's drill down on a little bit. And why do you think Texas, we've been so successful for so long and so dominant. I showed some rankings earlier that had us at the top of almost every credible business ranking. Why do you think that's the case time and time again for a state like Texas?
Again, I go back to the people. It's the people that drive the state. Texas has always been first in a lot of things. And while we didn't drill the first oil well in Texas that was drilled in the United States, we drilled our first oil well in 1866. And then in 1894, oil was discovered when the city of Corsicana was trying to drill a water well. They got mad that they struck oil with this water well. And so they cut in half the payment to the contractor that was drilling the water well because they messed it up. But then they soon discovered that 3-barrel-a-day well turned into a commercial well, and they built a refinery there. And it was the first refinery west of the Mississippi. And that's the way Texans are. You think you're going to do one thing, you have a problem with it, you figure out that, well, maybe this problem can turn into something special and something commercial, and you innovate around that, and then suddenly you got the first refinery in the west of the Mississippi. And then the rest of the history. We discovered the Spindletop in 1901, and then the Permian Basin in 1923, East Texas in 1930. So just looking at the oil industry alone, you see that so many things have happened here, and in so many occasions we've turned bad news into good news. And that's just the way we are. We're not going to be defeated by anything. We're just in the oil price drop just a few years ago. We turned that around and still made the shale play the biggest thing in the world and having the highest impact of the oil and gas industry of any region right now. So it's really the innovation, is the determination, the refusal to fail. And we got the aerospace industry here. And what I love most is about NASA, when I go over there and visit and take little kids with me over there to see all the amazing things there. We go into the gift shop, which you always have to do when you take kids to NASA. But they have these shirts that I think are indicative of the state of Texas, and that is that failure is just not an option. And you see those shirts everywhere, and that always strikes me every time I go in there. If we always have this view that failure is not an option, we just got to figure out how to make it work, then we'll continue to always be successful, and I think that defines our state.
Strong words from a major CEO in the state of Texas, governor, CEO of the state of Texas. Why is Texas continually on top? What are your strategies to make sure we stay there?
Yeah, in a way, Vicki has articulated what those strategies are that keep Texas on top. One issue that she raised was regulations in the regulatory environment. Let me mention this in a couple of contexts. One, let's talk about the energy context. We've seen some changes of attitudes across the entire nation through governments, especially at state government and local government levels, some showing increasing hostility toward oil and gas production, whether it be what happened in the aftermath of California. There's been some growing challenges in Colorado. There's been a change in New Mexico. And then you look at the dividing line, and Vicki, you know more about this than I would, but I think there's a dividing line between, is it New York and is it Ohio that's connected to New York, where they're producing natural gas in Ohio, but they're not producing it in Western New York. And so there's a tremendous difference based upon the governments about what is being done production-wise and revenue-wise. And as a result, the taxes imposed upon individuals. And so what we have realized is that the people who generate and create jobs, the people who generate revenue, the people who help us have the income the state needs in order to perform our functions are the business leaders in this state. And so we are smart enough to understand that our job is to get out of the way of entrepreneurs who are the real innovators, cut regulations as much as possible, and empower and come alongside and support our businesses, look for ways to cut taxes, which in the aftermath of this past session, your property taxes are going down and will be constrained in the ability for local governments to increase those property taxes. And so we are going to continue to find ways to make Texas an attractive state for businesses to locate to. And then I'll add one more thing on top of that we've been very devoted to, and that is ensuring that we are cultivating the type of workforce that will attract and keep employers here. But the main thing that we do simply is to support and assist businesses by providing an attractive location for them to do business.
The oil and gas industry in Texas is intertwined heavily with the history of Texas, as you so eloquently just laid out. It will be a major player for us and part of the state of Texas moving forward, not just from a budget perspective, but from a jobs perspective, innovation perspective. You chair the U.S. Secretary of Energy Advisory Board. You have a unique seat to understand what's next in the global oil and gas industry. So what's next? What's on the horizon? What can we expect moving forward?
Well, I think there's a couple of things on the horizon, but one of the biggest challenges of the oil and gas industry in a long time is climate change, the issues that we face there. So I think the companies that have an edge there, that have a strategy and a way to lower their carbon footprint are going to be the companies that ultimately will be the survivors long term. And so I think that our position here in the state of Texas gives us a unique opportunity to develop this climate change story. So the other thing is that as the climate change issues become bigger, there's going to be continued pressure on development of oil and gas all around the world. People would prefer no new wells to be drilled, no new developments to be made. And you couple that with the fact that in the shale play, the problem is we only get 10% of the hydrocarbons out of the shale. So how can we address both of those issues? We're going to be addressing both of those issues here in the state of Texas. We're doing it already. We're going to continue it in a bigger way. The entire oil and gas industry will ultimately be involved, but as a company from the state of Texas, we've been able to capitalize on our position here to start that process and to become a leader in carbon capture, and actually carbon capture in the Permian Basin. So what I think is going to be one of the ways that we deal with climate change is to take opportunities to get the CO2 emissions from industrial sources, move it to the Permian, and sequester it in our oil reservoirs, both the conventional ones that we're doing today and the shale, because CO2 in shale does work. And it's one of the technologies that will help us to further increase recovery from the shale without having to ultimately drill new wells to replace some of our declining production. So it's going to help offset the wells that need to be drilled in the future. It will help industry lower CO2 in the United States. So again, Texas is going to be a leader here. We've just announced not too long ago that we'll build the largest direct air capture facility in the world in the Permian Basin in Texas. So that's a challenge that Texas is going to be a leader with, because renewables, as important as they are in our economy going forward, and with respect to climate change, renewables are not going to be enough to reach the 1.5 degree to 2 degree cap on global warming, according to the Paris Agreement. So to achieve it, there has to be CO2 capture and sequestration. So that will be done here, and it's one of the things that we have to address as an industry. We're going to be a leader on that side of it. Others are leading with the renewables, and we're leading in the CO2 enhanced oil recovery.
I want to make sure we're all clear about what we just heard. That's right. A major oil and gas player actually is going to do something that is going to impact in a positive way the environment. Despite what you read in the press, this is the kind of innovation and creativity that comes out of Texas. So hats off to you and to your team for doing that. Governor, Texas is synonymous with a strong oil and gas industry around the world. I think it's no surprise to anybody that we flexed our muscles, we got OPEC's attention, and the world looks at us now with the play in the Permian moving forward as the 800-pound gorilla in the room. How do you connect that with the challenge we have in midstream and in getting that to our coastline? We've talked about exporting energy for the first time, which has made Texas an even more impactful and powerful player on the world stage. I know you have really been in the trenches on LNG export, working to make sure that we get buyers out there around the globe. How do we ensure that we connect all those pieces together to ensure that Texas remains that 800-pound gorilla in the room?
Well, something I've been working with people like Vicki and other leaders in the Texas energy sector on, as well as the exporters such as Cheniere. I was there for the ribbon cutting and the launch of the first LNG shipment out of Corpus Christi. And this is something that's extremely exciting about the present and future for the great state of Texas, and that is the amount of oil and gas that we are going to be exporting across the entire globe. And let me dovetail this with what Vicki was talking about from an environmental perspective, and that is one of the most important things that the energy sector is doing in the state of Texas is the export of LNG. Last year, I took a trip to India, and we were in Mumbai, and we were high in a hotel looking out over a bay in Mumbai, and could not see the sun that was setting, could not see on the other side of the bay because of all the haze, of all the pollution. And it showed the need for a different type of fuel for them to engage in the manufacturing that they are trying to undertake. And that fuel is LNG. And whether it be India or other countries across the entire globe, they will benefit from our exporting the energy that we're producing here in the state of Texas. The fuel they will be burning will be more efficient, will be cleaner, will be better for the environment, will be lower cost for their ability to produce products. And so this is truly one of those win-win situations. It's a great win for Texas energy businesses. It's a great win for our blossoming export facilities. It's a tremendous win for these other countries that will be benefiting from the low-cost energy and cleaner burning energy that we're producing here in the state of Texas. The world economy and the world environment will be better because of what's happening here in Texas.
Well said, and I think this is an opportunity for us to pat on the back all of our port officials in the state of Texas. I mean, without our robust, strong ports, all of this amazing energy that we're producing and pulling out of the ground can go nowhere, and that does nobody any good. And so whether it's Houston or Corpus or Laredo or Brownsville or Freeport, all of our ports along the Gulf Coast really deserve a pat on the back for all the tremendous work that you've done, so congratulations. Vicki, we were thrilled to welcome you to the TxEDC family in April when the governor appointed you as vice chair. Economic development has kind of become a buzz phrase, a catchword, if you will, because the economy has been doing so well. And again, Texas has been landing billion-dollar project after billion-dollar project after billion-dollar project. How do we keep that momentum going? What do you see as the strengths that we and others in this room who are operating in economic development, what should we be telling the world? What should we be telling other CEOs in other states to keep us on top of the economic development game in Texas?
Well, I think success drives success, and people are seeing companies moving to the state of Texas. Other people that are seeing this happening are seeing the great successes that occur when it does happen. One of the things that I think is important to do too is to entice some of the Silicon Valley types to Texas, and there's been a lot of work going on to make that happen. And I think we, as a part of the industry here, and those of us who need to continue to get employees that are the 21st century employees, need to continue to support these things as much as we can. And so one of the things that we did not too long ago is about 3 years ago, we were trying to develop this advanced data analytics team with real data scientists. And it was really hard to hire that first person because we're what they call a fossil fuels company, trying to entice someone who would normally go to Silicon Valley to come to Houston of all places. You know, it was tough enough, you know, it's one thing to offer Austin or Dallas, but to come to Houston. we had to really convince people, and we finally got the first one to come and do it. When the first one came and he saw the opportunity here, he saw that there's already kind of a network here of higher end scientists. You've got all the guys with NASA. You've got all the guys that, as much as people appreciate our industry, I think here in Houston, a lot of people don't understand we're a very high-tech industry. So once we're able to convince these data scientists what we have, what the opportunity is, they were able to convince more. We now have a very strong team here, but there's a community that's growing here. And I think that part of what we have to do is kind of encourage and let our data scientists be a part of a network that grows and that gets bigger and that can start to attract others to Houston as they're being attracted to Dallas and to Austin. And as we develop these opportunities and the energy needs here for power and to supply cheaper power and greener power for some of the companies that we might attract here, I think we're going to begin to see some of those companies start to show up in unusual places, and we're hoping to attract some to the Permian Basin. We don't have a data center there today. We hope to have one soon. And I think that with the success that others recently that have come over here, come to the state of Texas, the success they have in attracting very competent employees and employees that are willing to go above and beyond, that's really helpful for us. It's helpful for the state, and I think going to continue to be helpful for industry.
Once again, a real-world example of a Texas company being creative and thinking outside the box and doing things that, old school, if you will, oil and gas major is not supposed to do. It's just what we do in Texas, and we do it very well.
I'd say that a lot of the Texas companies are doing that today. So a lot of companies are starting to attract this kind of talent.
Well, I couldn't agree more. And to your point about success breeds success, well, competition breeds competition as well. And I know, Governor, we've talked a lot about the competitive environment that we want to create in Texas. Economic development has been something in Texas that has gone very, very well, frankly, over the last several years, something that our team works on every day to try to continue. Give our audience a sense of where you are in the economic development game in Texas, strategies you may have, vision you may have. What do you see in the future of economic development in Texas?
Well, first I'll point out that an ingredient that is essential to economic development is collaboration. We must all work together and collaborate together, and when we do that, we achieve far better results. In addition to that, one thing, Robert, that we're looking at trying to achieve just economically in the state of Texas is to continue to diversify our economy. You talked about big data, you talked about data analytics, which is a huge component going forward of what we'll be focused on in the state of Texas. But let me talk about the Houston area for a second, if I could. Look at some of the things that are going on here. Houston has, I believe, the biggest and greatest opportunity in the United States of America with what you can achieve with TMC3. This is a bird nest on the ground. You have the biggest data from the largest medical center in the entire world. And then when you put the researchers in TMC3 adjacent to the world's largest medical center, you have the opportunity to have the world's largest medical research center. And talk about diversifying your economy, that would truly do it. Whether it be the state's economy or the local economy will be far better the more diversified we are. So when we go about the process of looking at economic development, we continually look for ways that we can further diversify our economy. I just throw in another quick example of something that the legislature did this past session that focused on diversifying the economy in Houston without really money being used from the enterprise fund that we have in the governor's office. And that was an announcement that we made last week. The announcement where we signed the bill to establish the medical school at the University of Houston. Now, some may think, well, that's just another program at a university. A medical school at any university is a great economic diversifier. Think about who they have to hire to be the teachers or professors at that medical school. You have to hire doctors, and they are training doctors, and they are doing so in a way that will keep those doctors here in the state of Texas. That alone is diversifying the economy, but when you look at all the people who will be working with those doctors and the research projects they will be working on, you can see that it expands what Texas is doing in the medical arena. So the more that we invest in, the more more that we expand both the research and program capabilities of our universities, that alone is an economic diversifier. But bottom line is we look forward to working with everybody in this room on any type of project. It could be energy-based, it could be non-energy based, but we want to continue to grow and stimulate the economy. We have to do it working collaboratively together.
If you know me, I'm always a stickler for time, so I'm going to give the governor the last question. Briefly, Governor, you got Scott Prohaska, who you put on the board. You've got Vicki Hollub, who you put on the board. Some really impressive executives. What does that mean to you to have them on the board of Texas Economic Development Corporation and helping advise you moving forward for the success potentially of the state of Texas?
The value of them cannot be overstated. First, it's remarkable that we have these executives who are so busy doing these enormous deals, among other things, and we appreciate every moment of time that they are able to devote to helping the Texas economy grow, but also to advise me, to advise us, to advise everybody in the economic development world, because here's the deal. We, as government leaders, we don't have the same level of inside information insight that business leaders have. And we need to be educated. We need the insight from business leaders about the best strategies, but also about potential deals that may be taking place. Whether I'm talking to Vicki or I'm talking, let's say, to Michael Dell, who's always telling me what's going to happen 10 years into the future, or whoever it may be that we're involved in, that type of insight, that experienced leadership brought to the table really sets Texas apart in the economic development world in the United States. And one reason why we are the best is because we benefit from leaders like Vicki who are guiding us.
Governor, thank you very much for your time. Vicki, thank you for your time. We don't want to let you go away empty-handed. And so we thought there would be no better gift to give her as football season gets ready to kick off, to remind her of the University of Alabama than a University of Texas football jersey signed by Governor Abbott. And yes, you might be wondering why the number 80. I don't know. I'm just hoping that at the end of the day, Vicki will be in charge of an $80 billion company down the road one day. So one more time, a round of applause for Vicki Hollub and Governor Abbott. That's right. She said you had the governor sign it, so I won't burn it. That's exactly right. That is exactly right. That's exactly right. Exactly right. Thank you both again for your time. We really appreciate your involvement in what we're doing. I want to thank you for being with us today. Thank you for what you do. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.